Imagine a country where bombing and starving children isn't just a tactic of war, it's celebrated as heroism. Imagine a country where the public protests for the right to rape prisoners of war. Imagine a country that uses a false victimhood narrative as a weapon to justify ethnic cleansing and genocide. Have you imagined that country? You're imagining the Jewish state of Israel. The word evil isn't a word that should be thrown around lightly. Evil is something unique. It's knowing that something is wrong, doing it anyway, and reveling in that. It's taking joy in the suffering of the innocent and defenseless. It's the deliberate destruction of what is good and beautiful. And in this video, I'll be showing why Israel is the most evil country on earth today. Israel's evil goes back to the very beginning. It was founded as a Jewish state on land that was majority non-Jewish. The very beginning of Israel is a story of betrayal, terrorism, and racial extermination. In the early 1900s, Zionists were originally led into Palestine by native Palestinians with open arms. Palestinians at the time failed to understand the gravity of what the Zionist movement truly wanted for their land. It was the biggest mistake they ever made, and one they've been regretting since. When control of Palestine was passed from the Ottoman Empire to the British Empire after World War I, Zionist terrorism truly began. The Palestinians were betrayed by their guests, and Jews stole street after street, town after town. In this sense, turning from refugees to attackers, Zionists were the original rape-fugees. Even the British tried to step in to stop the excesses of the Zionist movement. The Jews responded with the King David Hotel bombing in Jerusalem, murdering over 91 people, many of them British. After World War II, the British Empire slowly collapsed and released its colonial territories. The UN then stepped in to divide Palestine into a Jewish and Palestinian state. However, the powers in control of the UN, like the United States and Britain, clearly favored the Jews and Zionists over the native Palestinians. The Jews were handed most of Palestine's fertile land, critical resources, and fresh water. The Palestinians tried to fight back in 1947 but were defeated, with many of them being ethnically cleansed from Palestine entirely. It's estimated that at least 750,000 were expelled from their homes. This event today is known as the Nakba, the catastrophe. Many of those expelled fled to the Gaza Strip, which is the hotspot of the current Israel-Palestine war. Since the 1940s, Israel has never offered a good faith deal to the Palestinians. All deals are like those offered by the UN, clearly in favor of Israel and used to solidify the Zionist stranglehold over the region. Naturally, this has resulted in many Palestinians abandoning the idea of diplomacy entirely and turning instead to guns and bullets. This is how Hamas was created. As we see today after October 7th, Israel uses the backlash to their genocidal policies as further justification for genocide. But of course, if Palestinians weren't resisting, they would still be targeted for genocide. A perfect demonstration of this is the occupied West Bank, run by the disarmed and compliant Palestinian Authority. Israeli settlers proudly steal Palestinian homes and kill civilians there without a second thought. One Israeli went viral for telling a Palestinian, "If I don't steal your home, someone else will."
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
So, whether they fight or behave compliantly, Palestinians are backed against the wall. To give a list of Israel's crimes at this point in time is too long to list. The endless videos of starving and burning children should serve as an example of this brutality. The world is seeing its first live-streamed mass murder, a new black mark on human history. Estimates in Gaza today range from 100,000 killed to over 400,000 killed, and that number is continuously rising. We won't know the true number until Zionism falls and a neutral, independent investigation is done. Either way, the casualty numbers at this time are immense. Israel has dropped over 100,000 pounds of bombs on Gaza, exceeding many of the largest bombings in World War II combined. Now, Israel justifies its actions as self-defense, But an actual look at Israel's state ideology reveals the true cause of this disproportionate killing. Israel is a Jewish supremacist state that sees non-Jews as subhuman animals unworthy of life. Their justifications of non-Jewish inferiority are both racial and religious. In a televised speech, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Israelis, "You must remember what Amalek has done to you." Amalekites were a people in the Bible that Jews think must be destroyed. Defense Minister 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗚 said Israel was fighting human animals in a speech announcing a complete siege on Gaza. These statements and others like them are currently being used as evidence against Israel in legal cases alleging genocide. All of these speeches show the core of Zionist mentality. Murder, rape, and torture, even against children, are all valid as long as the enemy is non-Jewish. Israel is perhaps the first country in history where civilians rioted for the right to rape prisoners of war, men and women. A useful exercise here is comparing the civilian casualties in the Russia-Ukraine war to the Israel-Palestine war. Despite the Russia-Ukraine war lasting a year and a half longer and dealing with much higher populations, the civilian deaths on both sides combined are around 20,000. The civilian deaths in Gaza today are at a bare minimum 100,000 and could be as high as 400,000. Both wars are using the same weapons and technology, so Israel can't claim these deaths have been necessary. They are 100% deliberate and a strategy of war being employed by Israel. Civilian deaths are the point of Zionism. Palestine can't be racially Jewish if Palestinians are living there. We could also look at the number of journalists killed by Israel. More than 240 journalists have been killed by Israel in Gaza since October 7th, more than all journalists killed in all post-World War II conflicts combined, including Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Vietnam, Yugoslavia, Korea, and Ukraine.
The Arabs will move. Why do you say that? So we don't give them food, we don't give the Arabs anything. They will have to leave. The world will accept them.
For the last year and a half, many people across the world have been asking the blaring question, how is Israel able to get away with all of this in the eyes of the international community? How does the rules-based international order allow this? Unlike what Israeli propaganda would have people believe, Israel's continued survival isn't because of some magical Jewish superiority. Even now, the IDF is suffering severe losses in its war despite all of its advantages. No, Israel is able to do what it does because of the unqualified backing of Western governments and media. Consider Israel's recent aggression on Iran, bombing Iran's nuclear scientists and facilities. In its attack, Israel used American, British, French, and German weapons to assault Iran, and then had these governments help defend them when Iran inevitably retaliated. The US used nearly a quarter of its most advanced missile interceptors against Iran, all to defend Israel. Let's look more generally. Israel is given tens of billions of dollars of military equipment like this every year by Western states. This is achieved through a combination of political capture of our governments through lobbying, and propaganda which keeps the general public from getting too angry about it. Conservatives like to lie to their audiences that Israel is defending the West from Islam. The clearest reason this is wrong is that Israel's motives aren't motivated by religion, but race. Palestinian Christians are also being massacred, and Israel is happy to support Islamic terrorists like ISIS as long as their targets are Israel's enemies. Let me ask you a simple question. When Israel drops a bomb on a refugee camp full of kids, do you think it matters to them what religion the kids are? But conservative politicians and influencers aren't the only problem here. Many liberals invoke anti-Semitism as a license for Jews to slaughter whoever they want. Some liberals frankly worship Jews as a group that can never do wrong. This kind of excusing of all of their actions is why Israel can do what it does. One of their favorite lines is, "It's not Israel, it's just Netanyahu and his extremist government."
No, it's false. Pure fiction.
Poll after poll shows that Jewish Israelis are horrible people who are quantifiably much more cruel and immoral than pretty much every other population on Earth. They think Netanyahu is being too merciful. Here's a clip from one of Israel's most popular podcasts, Two Nice Jewish Boys.
No one actually gives a shit. Zero people in Israel, if you go up to them and you're like, do you care if this baby in Gaza gets polio? They'll be like, I don't
Yesterday we went to a concert in 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗱. We had lots of fun, me and my girlfriend. And you can't help but think, like, it's nice to know that you're dancing in a concert while hundreds of thousands of Gazans are,
homeless,
like sitting in a tent and eating.
Makes it even better. That's what people don't understand. Look, like, I know that you guys might be appalled by this, some of the listeners, but seriously, this is how Israelis feel.
Now, all of that is bleak, but it should be noted that in spite of Israeli propaganda, Western people of all political persuasions have turned against them. What's remarkable is how the issue has united people of all political backgrounds. People may disagree on some things, but they can agree that Israel is out of control. This trend is especially true of Western youth, who've seen endless videos of Israeli crimes firsthand on social media, on top of seeing the heavy-handed Israeli censorship of pro-Palestine voices at the same time. The last Israel supporters are people over the age of 60 who get all of their information through Zionist networks like Fox News. The New York Times is one example of a Zionist media outlet disguised as a neutral one. Whenever describing Israeli atrocities, it deliberately uses passive language. People starved in Gaza. Children shot in Gaza. Palestinians dying. It doesn't mention who's doing these things to the Palestinians. The reason why this isn't rocket science. The New York Times executive board is full of literal Israelis and IDF soldiers, as well as American Jews who support Israel. This infographic here tells the story. Politico, Die Welt, and Business Insider were also recently exposed as requiring a loyalty oath to Israel to work at them. People need to know just how controlled by Zionists many of our biggest media outlets are. The United States is the most obvious country keeping Israel afloat. The US government provides not only military aid, but economic and diplomatic cover for Zionism. The foreign aid that America gives Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab states is essentially bribes to keep these countries pro-Israel. As we saw recently in June, America has been belligerent to Iran and Yemen on behalf of Israel to the point of bombing them. If the United States ended all of its support for Israel today, Zionism would collapse. America acts as direct life support, keeping the Israeli system going. This Western support for Israel is why the "I don't care about either side" guys are so absurd. If you live in the West or Western Europe, your government has already picked a side and is propping it up. If you truly opposed both sides, you would be against Israel only, since that is the side you're actually connected to. Our countries are directly involved in this, whether one likes it or not. I discuss more about the Israeli control of the American government in my last video on Israel, but to summarize, it's mainly through using the massive wealth of powerful Zionists to buy politicians and elections. Simultaneously, anti-Israel voices among the people are controlled by censorship. Consider how TikTok was briefly one of the most anti-Israel platforms online. In response to this, it was directly threatened and censored by the US government. Now TikTok has put a Jewish Zionist and former IDF soldier to draft its hate speech policy.
I grew up in a traditional Jewish household, but in an untraditional decision, after graduating from Michigan, I made Aliyah and enlisted in the Israel Defense Forces. I spent the next 2 years serving as a madrichat shirion, an instructor in the Armored Corps. To many, this might seem like a contradiction. For a woman who identifies as liberal and progressive to be a Zionist so committed as to join the IDF, for me, these two identities go hand in hand.
Zionists have a heavy hand in the tech industry. The CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, is another Zionist who's pledged to use his company's surveillance apparatus to censor anti-Zionism. Karp and Palantir work closely with the White House and the administration of Donald Trump.
So what do you think about the use of artificial intelligence or lavender by the IDF in identifying Hamas targets?
Look, I'm not, without going into all the I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel because my bias is to defer to Israel.
This is a huge aspect of Israel's evil. They know what they're doing is wrong, and they know that we know that what they're doing is wrong. But rather than change policy, they want every non-Jewish voice silenced. It's clear today that Israel is planning to commit and finish its genocide of the Palestinian people and just hope they can get away with it. They're facing extreme resistance, and the Palestinians have shown they won't go out without a fight. Palestinian resistance fighters continue to take out IDF soldiers every day. Part of the reason Israel targets civilians so much is because their military struggles against actual trained soldiers. And it's not just Hamas fighting back. Iran fought heroically against aggression from both Israel and the United States, launching missiles into Tel Aviv as the world cheered. The Houthi resistance movement in Yemen has also proven a fierce opponent of Israel, and boycotts around the world by Western people have also had an impact. The fact that they want to ban the BDS movement in entire countries speaks to the impact that even common people can still have. But it remains to be seen what, if anything, Western governments will do to stop Israel. The public in the US, Germany, and other countries with Zionist governments have turned against Israel. But Zionist politicians are playing every trick in the book to keep the aid flowing. How long these tricks will last is unknown. For us in the United States, the only way out of this hell is to support anti-Zionist politicians. For my part, I will never support a Zionist regardless of what other issues I agree with them on. From here on out, Zionism should be treated like pedophilia. It is an utterly disqualifying position for any politician or political movement. Israel is the most evil country on earth, and it's time to treat it as such.
Never, never, ever believe Israeli figures. I've been in the government too long to know that the Israelis are patent liars. In their intelligence community, in their propaganda community, certainly, and in their leadership, they are inveterate liars. Let me say that again. They are liars. So you can't believe anything that comes out of Jerusalem.
This has been Pax, and thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on all this. If you'd like to support the channel, consider donating through the link in the description. As always, I will see you in the next video.